What's up, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at another paddle that introduced the hole in the throat concept from a smaller company called Kitchen Pro. And these paddles are deceptively nice.
Dude, what are you doing?
I'm making a review about the paddle.
Do you know which YouTube channel you're on right now? Make sure you stay tuned till the end because I've talked to Kitchen Pro to give away 5 of these paddles. So if you want to win one, the instructions will be at the end. Okay, so I want to go over some general information about this paddle. The company is Kitchen Pro and they make 2 versions of this paddle, a fiberglass and a carbon fiber version. They're both identical in specs aside from the face material. They're a 14mm core, which is interesting because the edge guard is actually very thick. If I hold it up to another true 13mm paddle, it's noticeably thinner. So I'm sure the actual core is 14mm, but the edge guard around it makes it appear far thicker. The grip length is quite small at 4.75 inches. It's a polymer core. The grip size is 4 1/8 inch up to 4.5 inches, and that's quite a large variance for grip size. Some companies do have a variance in their grip, but I'm a bit confused how it could vary that much. And then finally, the weight range is between 7.8 and 8.5 ounces, which is also a fairly large variance for weights. They're both very balanced paddles and feel good in the hand. I generally think they lean a little bit more head light than a lot of other paddles on the market. Now for the prices, the fiberglass is $175 and the carbon fiber is $195. We're gonna come back to these prices a bit later because it plays a fairly big role in my opinion of these paddles. So for this video, I will be focusing on the carbon fiber version and my buddy PickleballWill is going to be reviewing the fiberglass model. Full disclosure, we spent about 2 days with these paddles. Kitchen Pro sent me the paddle to test, but this is in no way sponsored and they did not pay me any money. So the first thing we need to talk about is how this thing looks. And if I'm gonna be completely honest with you, when I first looked at this thing, the first thing that came to my mind is that it looks like a Toys R Us version of the Selkirk Labs 002.
So when Chris first showed me these paddles, I was like, what the is this? It looks like my granddad's Oldsmobile. But surprisingly, it plays more like a Toyota Camry that's a few years old. So needless to say, it was pretty nice.
Now, just to be clear for everyone, the Kitchen Pro paddles actually came out before the 002. I believe they told me they were working on approval back in April of 2021, and I think they launched near the fall of 2021. So while it does look like a 002 knockoff, it did actually exist first. It's just that no one was really aware of them because the initial marketing launch wasn't very big. Now, with that being said, it still looks pretty cheap overall. I think the graphics aren't amazing, and something about the way the plastic is molded and looks just screams cheap to me. But when you take a closer look at this paddle, things actually get super interesting. Most pickleball paddles have an edge guard that's glued to the face of the paddle, and it's extremely common that these edge guards have their glue fail and it starts to come off. Well, take a close look at this paddle and you notice that there is no edge guard that goes over the face of the paddle. The edge guard and the face are actually one mold, so it's not even possible for this edge guard to come off. And as far as I'm aware, no other company has done this yet, and I think it's a really good idea. Just after playing with the paddle and using it for a bit, it actually feels quite durable and I really wouldn't be worried about breaking this thing. You'll notice this transparent film strip on the top of the paddle. I was a bit confused about this initially, and after talking to Greg, he said that it's just supposed to be a protective layer to help the paint from chipping when you scrape the paddle on the ground, just like when you use electrical tape. But as you can see, after 2 days of mine, it's already looking extremely beat up. So my guess is you'll end up taking this off and using your own electrical tape if you're worried about the paint chipping. For the throat hole, they also took a completely different approach. This is a true throat hole like a tennis racket, whereas what Selkirk did was literally just punching a hole in the face of the paddle. This has a very clear separation from what the throat is and what the hitting surface is, unlike the 002. So I think that's also an interesting design choice that we haven't seen yet. The throat hole is obviously a very polarizing topic in pickleball, but like it or not, it's here, and I think we're going to see more of them as pickleball progresses. I think the main reason everyone gets upset is that this generally has been marketed as being more aerodynamic, but in the context of the Kitchen Pro, the whole frame and handle is carbon fiber. Most paddles, the handle is just polymer from the core, and that's why it's so weak and can break easily. I truly don't think you'll break the handle on this paddle. They also claim because of the throat design that this dampens the vibrations. So structure integrity and vibration dampening are 2 nice effects that seem like they come from this type of throat design. After running this through the spin test for the fiberglass model, Will got 1155 RPM while I got 1136. For the carbon fiber, Will got 1113 and I got 1147. So as you can see, these numbers are quite consistent for both of them and they're both in the low tier for spin. This is also a bummer to see because at this point, companies are adding more and more grit to produce great spin on their paddles. And when you look at these paddles, they literally feel like paper when you touch the surface. So while I couldn't hit my drives and serves as hard as I'm used to, I did still feel like I had a good time using this paddle, which is uncommon because most paddles that get a low amount of spin, I have a really hard time using and generally don't enjoy them.
So from the baseline and for drives, spin was, I guess, mediocre at best. But when you get up to the kitchen line and you wanted to add spins, back spins, a little bit of top spin for doing rolls and whatnot, it performed just as well as any other paddle out there. And in my opinion, it wasn't that bad. It actually felt pretty good. And that may have to do with the control and the connectedness that I felt with dinking the kitchen with this paddle.
So when it comes to control, one very interesting marketing claim on the website is that the fiberglass is the control model, while carbon fiber is the power model. In almost every single other paddle on the market, fiberglass ends up giving you more power, while carbon fiber gives you more control. So I do find it odd that they chose to market it this way, but for the carbon fiber paddle, I definitely felt like this was all about control. This was by no means a power paddle in my opinion. In fact, with my serves and drives, they were noticeably slower than usual, and I pretty much just opted to use my serve as a just get it in mentality, where most of the time I'm trying to be more aggressive. I just didn't feel like I could do that with this paddle because it wasn't that powerful and I couldn't generate very much spin. One of the absolute best things about this paddle was the drop shots. I could not believe how well I could drop the ball. In fact, I almost don't know if I've had any other paddle that I could drop this well with. Will and I were both blown away at how effortless drops felt. Similarly with dinking, it felt very easy and effortless. The paddle has a very nice controllable pop feel. It feels plush when you hit the paddle instead of crisp and hard. I think due to the lack of power, you don't have to worry about overhitting your dinks and drops, which meant that you could use more of your body to dictate how the shot was going to be instead of the paddle dictating it for you.
At the kitchen, I felt like a god. I felt like I could not miss. But really though, I really felt connected with the ball. Any resets, any drops, anything I had to do in the kitchen, I just felt really connected to the ball and I felt like I could put it wherever I wanted to. So power with this paddle, pretty much non-existent, at least from the baseline and from middle of the court. If you're trying to do drives and ground strokes, you're really not going to get any power.
When it came to the sweet spot, I had no real complaints about it. To me, it felt like it was about average. It wasn't bad, but it really wasn't anything special. It was just kind of middle of the road and performed well. Okay, so overall, I thoroughly enjoyed using the Kitchen Pro. I seriously thought I was going to dislike this paddle a lot, but after using it extensively for 2 days, I found the transition was super easy for me and I played perfectly fine. My drops, resets, and dinking worked particularly great with it. I could probably use this paddle at a tournament and really enjoy it. The big problem for me is the price to performance ratio of this paddle and lack of spin. While I really enjoy it, the fiberglass comes in at $175 and the carbon fiber at $195. The surface of both of these paddles is completely smooth, like rubbing your hand on paper type of smooth. When you get to the $180 and especially up to $200 price range, I think doing a face similar to Electrum, Carbon, or Yola is almost an absolute must. The game is evolving with paddles that allow players to generate more spin than ever before, and if you're going to price your paddle at nearly the highest tier, you absolutely have to be playing the grit game, even if you just did some kind of rough texture like other composite paddles do. So I really think that this hurts this paddle because in this price range you have Electrum, Carbon if they get unbanned, Yola, Engage, Gearbox, Diadem, or Pro Kenix. These are all paddles that have quite defining unique features that help separate them apart. Gearbox is practically indestructible and has no edge guard. Electrum, Yola, Carbon, and Engage all have that gritty carbon fiber surface. Diadem has the thickest paddle on the market. Pro Kenix has the beads in the paddle to reduce shock, and all of those companies have paddles that produce great spin numbers. So if Kitchen Pro is going to come out with paddles in that price range, they really need to have more defining features than a throat hole and a unique build construction. I think if these were in the $120 to $140 range, these would be a super solid paddle. But for upwards of 200, you're competing with the best of the best, and I don't think this quite competes with those yet. But for a first-time paddle design from this company, I think they have a lot of potential for future models, especially with this unique edgeguard design. I hope they'll continue to experiment and try new designs that help innovate and push paddle designs further.
So overall, I actually really like this paddle a lot. It definitely plays a lot better than it looks, and I think Kitchen Pro has something here. I think this paddle is the right paddle for the right type of player with the right type of play style. I think it's definitely a control paddle, and for somebody who really likes to be up at the kitchen line and looking for resets, looking for volleys, looking for dinks. Probably not for everybody, but overall a really great paddle. Now, for the price that it is, I don't know if I could recommend this paddle. I think at that tier of $180 to $200, I think there are better paddles out there with better performance. But I think this is a great start for Kitchen Pro, and I would love to see them iterate on this paddle. Maybe drop the price downs of these paddles, or perhaps add some more features, or change the paint job and the aesthetic for future iterations.
Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I teamed up with Kitchen Pro to give away 5 of these paddles to you guys. If you win, you can choose carbon fiber or fiberglass. All you have to do to enter is click the link in the description, and it will take you to the gleam.io registration page. This is what I'm using to manage the giveaway. All it's going to ask you to do is visit my Instagram profile, and then once you close the tab and come back, there will be a spot for you to enter your name and email. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow my Instagram page. After that, I will contact all of the winners via email, and the giveaway will run for 1 week. Make sure that you keep an eye on your email, please. But there you guys go. That's my first impressions of the Kitchen Pro paddle. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit the like button, and I will catch you guys in the next video.